On our first night together, he warned me that he got a dicky heart. I don't know about dicky heart, but he's certainly got a heart.
Look! I can't do this if you're just going to keep gabbling away there like Ina Sharples.
Welcome to episode 17 of the Jonathan Creek podcast, where one of us is hearty and the other is Sharples.
Well, you're the one that never shuts up, so
Oh?
we'll go that way.
How are things?
Not too bad, Gerry. How are you this week?
Brilliant.
What's making you so pleased?
This episode, thoroughly enjoyed it.
It's redeemed the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great episode.
It is. Although we have to be careful, we have to tread very carefully when laughing or discussing the nerds involved.
But yeah, because they probably listen to this podcast.
No doubt, but we can get there.
Yeah.
Anything been happening? Anything exciting?
No.
Okay, if you don't have anything for us, why don't we begin?
Okay, why not?
Do you have the customary summary?
As always.
Crack on.
In Miracle in Crooked Lane, Jonathan and Maddie meet a group of Creek aficionados at a convention and are surprised to learn that one has a genuine mystery on his hands. A model whose tell-all expose in the national press has angered locals was spotted alive, well and unscathed just hours after an accident left her with serious and ultimately fatal burns. With an unimpeachable witness and no reasonable way to reconcile the two events, Jonathan must figure out whether a crime has been committed, and if so, where and by who. Can he find a spark to put it all together? Or will this explosive twist prove a mystery too far?
Thank you, Ian. That was miraculous. We begin in a bedroom this week.
As
And
always.
what?
As always.
So we don't always begin in a bedroom,
Most days begin in the bedroom.
do we?
Well, I wake up in the bedroom.
Okay. We see a crucifix on the wall of an elderly sleeping lady who we come to learn is Kathleen. I think.
Yes,
Or
it must be.
Catherine or Kathleen?
Kathleen, yeah.
Yeah. There's photos of her in her younger years in what looks like somewhere in Africa.
She's gone out proselytising to folk and brainwashing them.
A crusading.
Yes. Ruining the world.
We see that she has only one slipper by her bed.
Yeah, we find out why fairly shortly.
The next morning, she is woken by a younger man named Vincent.
Yeah, or Vince. He's got a bowl of all bran.
He has. Need to be regular,
Absolutely.
especially at her age.
Exactly. She noticed that she's finding it difficult these days to wake up in the mornings.
Yes, he's got some strong coffee to try and help this.
And he says to her that anyone who's had a major coronary bypass and a leg bitten off by a crocodile is allowed to feel a bit wobbly first thing. Fair enough, I suppose.
Definitely. She's staying with him as she recuperates from these ailments.
Yes, a bit of country air. Do her good, no doubt.
From the bedroom, we head over to the village pub.
Was it the same one that we saw with Maddie's friend, remember?
Yeah, I don't think so.
It looked like a similar sort of outdoor seating arrangement.
Yes. I mean, it may have been, actually.
Yeah.
Did Kathleen remind you of that irritant Auntie Audrey?
To a certain extent, she certainly looked just, a little bit less elderly. She's a bit of blatant product placement at the start of that scene.
No, what was that?
At the pub, Christine, obviously Emma Kennedy, sitting there with her Walker's crisps, pointing at the camera. I don't think that'd be allowed in the BBC, would it?
That must have been on the cusp of Walker's taking over from Golden Wonders in the UK.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. When they changed all the colours and ruined it.
Yeah, salt and vinegar is blue, cheese and onion is green.
That's what it should be.
Definitely. In any case, we're at this pub, and the local postie, Christine, is sitting outside, as you mentioned, eating her crisps, reading a newspaper, when she is approached by Vincent with his camera.
Yeah, she asks after Kathleen.
So we get the feeling this is a little local village community where everyone knows everyone knows who's with who and the gossip.
Yeah, no, I'm going to assume it's maybe not the same pub, given that Jonathan and Maddie aren't meant to. This isn't the same town, is it? It's a completely different place.
Yeah.
So it'd be unusual if it was the exact same pub.
The name is mentioned, although I didn't take a
I've got a
note
note
of it.
later on, yeah.
Just then, we see a tipsy and what might be classed as a tarty looking middle-aged woman. She smuttily sits herself down beside some other locals, two couples.
Is it two? I thought it was two women and a man.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But they're clearly not interested in her and are wary of her reputation.
Well, apparently, although perhaps unfairly. The two women immediately get up and leave her alone with this guy called Tom.
Yeah, I think Tom is probably quite happy. He's, oh yeah, this is terrible. I need to leave. But if the wife or the whoever they weren't there, if he was out having a pint himself, reading the paper, do you mind if I join you?
It might not make her. I mean, she was quite aggressive in the way that she put herself on a bench that didn't really have room for her.
Oh yeah, it was entirely inappropriate.
Maybe just challenging them to react.
I think so. And she's drunk.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay. She's in the paper as Christine and Vincent realise, or Vincent is shown by Christine.
Yeah, he asks her what the problem is, and she gives him a copy of The Sun, which has a sleazy spread about the infamous 70s sex kitten Jackie Jordan. Now, Vincent seems quite impressed.
Well, he doesn't seem as unhappy as the women, but when we pan back round to the table, Tom's away as well. She's left on her own.
Unlucky Tom. We head over to Rupert's house, and this is the older partner of Jackie.
I think husband.
Is it husband?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's furious at the treatment that these women have given her. She says that she's not going to feel bad for having had a bit of fun in her life.
That's quite right. I can sympathise to an extent, but although what we do here is that it wasn't just her having fun, she was breaking up marriages, not really caring about.
Well, I always think it's the person who's married's responsibility in these circumstances.
Yeah, certainly we do have responsibility as well, but if you go after someone who you know is married, you have to take some of the blame as well.
There's some good quotes in this scene. She's talking to her husband, obviously, about her frustrations. She says, "God gave me a beautiful body and he gave it to me for a reason, to make people happy." And her husband says, "And you did on a very regular basis."
Yes.
He appears to be, this is quite weird, as her husband, reading this story about her and clipping the topless photo out with a pair of scissors.
Yeah, well, we find out later on he collects this sort of stuff.
He does.
And as this is happening, they are both startled. How? Why?
I love this. There is something, presumably a rock, thrown through the window, and someone using a loud hailer says, "Repent to the Lord, harlot, or be damned for all eternity." And Rupert says something along the lines of, "Enough of that, Mrs. Gibson."
Yes. I'd like to have seen Mrs. Gibson.
Yes, it's fairly typical. She's one of those sort of right-wing, inverted comma, Christian loonies who want to impose their way of life on everybody else.
It's all very tame these days. I think even in a little village like that today, it wouldn't, reality shows and the internet and social media and whatever you can get on that, I think people are far more...
It's not completely pre-internet. We learn about some websites later on in the episode.
Yeah, it's not completely, but I think this is before everyone had access to it in their homes.
It was limited. It was in the library, so you had to be careful what you were looking at.
And it was only pictures you could look at.
No, you didn't get any pictures. It was only text because it was so slow.
From Rupert and Jackie's place, we head over to Maddie's flat for the first time this week.
We do.
She's in bed, possibly naked, eating a curly whirly whilst reading an article.
It's Jackie's article. Or it's a different article about Jackie. About an MP who could only climax if she dressed as a traffic warden and stuck fixed notice penalties to his glasses. How many guesses as to the party of this politician do we need?
One.
Yes.
We won't name it, but we all know.
No, I'm assuming it's, Around about that time there was, it was quite famously.
Certainly.
Not long after a lot of scandals brought our government down.
Yeah, a lot of high profile MPs into all sorts of stuff. But again, looking back now, all very tame. Some of the things you can see on the internet, and it's some she mentions in here people being in porridge baths and
in their clothes.
Yeah, dressed up as traffic wardens. It's really is quite.
You would laugh.
You would laugh at it.
We've all been ruined.
Well, yeah, we heard some of that at the top of the podcast.
Yeah, if anyone doesn't know who Ina Sharples was, she was in Coronation Street. Mostly in the 60s, a little bit in the 70s. Yeah. I wrote her out in about 1980.
Gossipy, battle axe type, was she?
Yeah, but that's an old reference for Jonathan to be making. He must have been quite... Even by the time she was written out in the 1980, he would only have been...
I still... yeah, sure, but I still think she was iconic enough, big enough name. And again, this is a couple of channels on the TV. Yeah. There weren't as many soaps. That may be slightly more obscure, certainly, unless you're in Scotland. But perhaps someone might have heard, people have heard of Dirty Den, who has not been in EastEnders for 20, 30 years, really.
He came back.
Did he?
He died again.
Okay.
And then he came back again and died again.
Anyway, point being, or Mavis from Coronation Street.
Yeah, Bouncer from Neighbours.
Bouncer from Neighbours, yeah. There we go. Anyway, we're digressing here at a rapid rate. Jonathan, whilst Maddie is rabbiting, he is brushing his teeth in the ensuite.
Yeah, the implication here is that they're about to have sex with one another, and I'm waiting for a twist.
Well, that's exactly what I've noted here. You're thinking that... do you remember the episode where he had to get a cockroach from the ceiling or something, a spider?
Yeah.
And you see him taking his shoes off in the bedroom, and you think, oh, aye. And yeah, waiting for this twist. But no, they apparently are about to attempt to get down to it.
It's not very romantic, is it? She's sitting there chomping on her chocolate bar and reading the paper. He's brushing his teeth.
Well, that's what we heard in the quote. He is having some performance issues.
Yeah, and he's blaming her for them, even though probably not fair to do so.
I would think it might be slightly fair. I mean, not entirely fair, but yeah.
If he's not up to the job, it's his problem.
Yeah, she's talking
Maybe,
nonsense.
she's not doing her best to
and
keep the
eating
mood.
a curly whirly.
Yeah.
Not seductively. She's not licking on a bar of chocolate and you're thinking, oh, she's chomping on this curly
And she
whirly.
has 5 more under the pillow.
Well, yes, he pulls her up for it. And she says, one curly whirly. And he reveals a collection of them. Her midnight snack. Yeah.
You wonder, is she sabotaging this? They've not made any effort. There's no romantic music. There's no...
No, I think they've decided, listen, there's this tension here. Let's just get it over and done with.
Yeah, but it's a little bit clinical, isn't it?
Oh, very clinical, yeah. And yeah, she talks about needing a midnight snack, and he opens the curtains to reveal it's
the middle of the afternoon.
it's 3 p.m.
She's messing with his circadian rhythms. He can't do it at that time of the day. And at that point, she pulls back the covers and is fully dressed, presumably having anticipated this outcome.
Yeah.
In any event, Jonathan notes that it's far rarer to have a meeting of the minds like they have than a physical attraction like you could have with so many people.
Yeah. Meeting of the minds isn't how I would have thought Jonathan would have considered their relationship. I mean,
Yeah, it's an interesting take, isn't
Yeah.
it? He enjoys her company, I think is what he's saying.
Yeah, I think he says having a coffee. I don't think it's I don't think from his point of view it's their meeting of minds.
Well, not...
Intellectually.
maybe not. He doesn't maybe see her as an equal in that regard, but I think he sees her as complementary to him.
Yeah, he enjoys her company. I think that's what he was getting at. Now, at this point, he notices a letter addressed to Maddie that reveals what?
She has, on behalf of both of them, accepted an invitation to the Mystery Writers' Convention at the Trench View Hotel in Wrigglesworth this Thursday.
Where they will also be meeting...
The Jonathan Creek Fan Club. Bunch of saddos.
Now, he thinks it must be a wind-up, but is convinced to go, especially after Maddie points out that a famous Hollywood star will be there to present some prizes.
Yes, it's the man himself, Danny DeVito.
I'd go to see Danny.
Well, I may go to see Danny. I think you're a bigger fan than I am of these days.
I like a lot of his 80s movies, a lot of his 70s sitcoms, Taxi and what have you, and one of my favourite shows I've mentioned before, Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
We return to the village, Christine's house.
Yeah, she's returned home from her post-round. Post-round? I don't know, that's what you would call it. But anyway.
Route?
Yeah, postal route. And
Route?
She's unhappy that her partner has not peeled the potatoes in her absence.
Yeah, just on that, sorry. How come in America they always say route? Okay, so your paper route or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's Route 66, not Route 66.
Yeah, I was just thinking that when, I don't know.
Anyway, never mind.
Yeah.
If anyone knows, let us know on Twitter. Yeah, her partner, Jeff. Big Jonathan Creek fan.
He's been reading Challenging the Impossible and he mimics Jonathan's hair and he says he's going to look at a right prat if he turns up at this convention and he doesn't have any intelligent questions to ask.
Well, but it's more than just his hair. He's wearing the duffel coat and the shirt. And
Yeah, he's got the whole shebang going on. Christine's unhappy. She says if he had to pick someone as a role model, why did it have to be that creep?
Jeff corrects her to Creek, but I don't think...
That wasn't what she meant at all.
No.
I don't know why she thinks he's a creep. It's not really established.
He might look quite creepy.
I suppose he's a bit dishevelled.
Yeah.
She doesn't get it because nothing mysterious has ever happened in the village where they live.
Yeah, but he says it's to do with his thinking, his use of logic, his rationale.
Yeah. What's logical about dressing up like somebody you like? I mean, it's like, I understand doing it for fun if like you're in a group, like you're cosplaying at a convention, but he's doing this in his house.
Yeah.
By himself.
Yeah, it's very extreme, isn't it?
Very much.
Anyway, we head back over to Rupert and Jackie's large house.
She's got her fan mail.
Yes, and there is another tabloid article about her. Tell me about this fan mail.
Oh, she's got a long typed note, which is not it doesn't look like it's particularly complimentary. And then she's got a newspaper cutout one which says, "Cheap victory, you cruel bitch." I presume meaning she got paid for the article, I don't know.
Who knows?
Rupert's quite supportive of her, though.
Yeah, but she's wondering, she's starting to doubt herself, or wonder if she deserves this hatred. And then she says she will go to mow the lawn. Now, this didn't sit particularly right with me. That, her herself, and that size of house.
Yeah, mowing their own lawn.
Yeah, and even, her. She doesn't look the type who would mow a lawn.
I don't know what's going on there. The show gets dated quite dramatically at this point when the postman arrives with a second post.
Yeah, I was going to say that. A second. We used to get that.
I know.
You'd get a post, about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, then someone would turn up about 10.
And at my house, it was usually before we went to school, so it would be like 7, 8, and then the other one would be lunchtime, 11, 12.
Crazy.
Yeah. Because I would always be waiting for something. I used to play these play-by-mail games, and I'd be waiting for my turn to come in the post, and then it wouldn't come, and I'd be like, "Hey, come in the second post."
Yeah.
So that was, I think once came in the second post.
Play-by-mail games.
Yeah. Back in the before the internet.
This isn't the 60s, Ian. This is the 90s.
Yeah, but before the internet.
Okay, fair enough.
It was a complete waste of time and money.
Yeah.
While Christine's there, we see Jackie wandering off with a cigarette in hand to the shed for the lawnmower.
Yeah, see, this again, there's something not right about this. She clearly isn't an experienced lawnmower.
No.
She doesn't really know what she's doing, and you certainly don't hang over at a petrol lawnmower with a cigarette in your mouth.
No, I wonder if she's just having this sort of internal drama going on. She doesn't understand whether she's done something wrong. How should she be feeling? She's maybe just in a bit of a daze.
Yeah, I would expect Rupert, if that was my wife, I'd be saying, "What, you're going to mow the lawn? You've had a few drinks."
I think Rupert's really mostly interested in just looking at her.
Yeah, and his cuttings.
Yeah.
His library.
He's not a good husband from what we can see.
Nah, he's a bit of a creep.
Yeah.
So she's in this shed, trying to work out how to use the lawnmower. And
Yes.
as I said, she's got a fag on.
She does, and it looks like there's some embers about to drop.
Inevitably, the next thing we see is...
External shot of the shed exploding.
And the emergency services on the scene removing the badly burned Jackie.
Yeah, Christine's there, but she looks a bit bemused by all this.
She's wondering why Jackie was trying to mow the lawn.
Yeah.
Quick scene in the hospital.
Did you like Jackie's makeup in this one?
She's covered...
We're not going to do any prosthetic burns, so let's just wrap her entire face in bandages.
over the eyes and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rupert's sitting by her bedside.
Do you think it was even the same actress?
No.
It could have been anybody.
Yeah, you wouldn't use one of the stars for
No,
that.
it's an extra.
Yeah.
Or a production crew member.
Mm-hmm. It's now time for this convention. I think this might take place in the village green.
It looks like it looks like a fete, doesn't it?
Yeah, that is, yeah.
Danny DeVito's there. I don't know who played Danny DeVito, but it
was Danny DeVito.
I don't think it was Danny DeVito.
Why not?
I think
You think you
it's
might use his
unlikely.
face?
They might have used him a bit differently if it had actually been Danny DeVito.
We see the supposed Danny a few times, and he's basically encircled by a group of screaming kids.
Yes,
obscuring his features. I quite like that little joke.
Yeah.
See, this convention, is this entire thing the murder mystery?
Yeah, I think Jonathan's just not one of the more popular people at it.
Right, so the whole thing's just about murder mystery.
I'm assuming Danny DeVito's just there because he's famous and was nearby. They say he was actually filming like at Elstree, not far away, and they just brought him in. They say that in the letter.
Yeah.
So I suspect that, yes, it is all the mystery writers, but Jonathan is maybe not the biggest attraction.
It seems very popular. The place is busy.
Yeah, Jonathan's not got the biggest of the marquees.
No, he's got a solitary little tent.
It reminded me of one of those, you used to see them roadworks tents that you would have,
Yeah.
where the people went and had their cup of tea.
I always fancied, I thought that was great. You could be in a busy street, but you could nick in, have a cup of tea and a sandwich.
Yeah.
I'd like a shot of that. We meet Daphne, the event organiser, I presume.
Yeah, she's obviously up to high-do because she's trying to get everything running smoothly.
Yeah. And she points him, Jonathan that is,
Yeah.
and Maddie in the direction of his
They're
tent.
trying to get in to see Danny, and they're diverted to where they're meant to be, and it's a very small gazebo.
And then inside, a depressed-looking Jonathan sits as half a dozen or so of these Jonathan Creek clones, asks questions and discuss some of the cases that he has been involved in.
Did you like them picking out the plot threads from the
Yeah.
Episode 2.
This is at the top of the podcast. I mentioned we need to be very careful when laughing at these nerds. We're doing exactly the same thing, and if these guys were around just now, they would certainly have a podcast.
Yeah, but we don't dress up like Jonathan Creek.
There's been occasions.
You know, you've had your haircut since then.
Yeah, but you've got the duffel coat now.
That's for Paddington. That's nothing to do with Jonathan Creek.
But yeah, I was laughing at these guys, and then I thought to myself, wait a second, what they're doing in that scene,
Yeah.
dissecting a case and the clues, is what we do every other week.
The first guy, you'll probably tell me it's a completely different actor, but he reminded me of the first one that spoke and was giving all this about Rokesmith. Reminded me a lot of the androgynous detective that was with Gideon Pright. No doubt you'll be able to tell me whether it was the same guy or not.
I can see why you thought it was, but no, unfortunately not. That'd have been nice.
It would be interesting anyway.
Yeah.
Also, I would have quite liked it if Gideon Pright was sitting at the back of the tent. They surely could have got Rick Mayall in for 5 minutes to do that scene. You see Jonathan's eyes literally rolling back in his head at one point, and he's trying to wrap the whole thing up, but Maddie won't have any of that.
Yeah, she's quite devilish here, isn't she? She realises how annoyed he is and asks the group if there are any more questions, and of course, hands are raised.
See, I like Maddie much more when she's being mischievous like this, rather than when she's just being angry and grumpy and difficult.
Yeah. Outside the tent, Jonathan threatens to get Maddie for this and moans about the 4 hours it took comparing the fans to Travis Bickle.
Yeah, he says there's sad acts who know more about him than he does, and 2 of them actually live in windmills.
At this point, a late Jeff rushes over to introduce himself, and he's clearly in awe of Jonathan.
Yeah, he's very excited indeed.
I can't understand how a guy who bases his entire look and probably his actions, his entire life in Jonathan Creek, could be late to a nearby Jonathan Creek convention.
Maybe it's not nearby. It's not really established.
No, I think it is, because that's why Jonathan is in the vicinity of this crime.
Well, no, he's not. He just goes to the crime. Jeff gives him a lift in a minute to the vicinity of the crime on his motorbike.
Yeah, I think that's nearby.
They could be on the motorbike for hours.
I always thought it was pretty nearby. I assumed that.
Yeah, I don't think it's established in the episode.
And then it doesn't matter. My question is...
Well, how could he possibly miss the start?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think we find this is only halfway through, isn't it? The organiser tries to get him back in the tent.
But still, if you're so obsessed that you'd look like you'd be different, you'd be queuing up.
Yeah. And he's not even unhappy about it. He's not, like, pulling his hair out, desperate to get there quicker.
No.
He just strolls up, quite happy.
Oddball.
Maybe he was timing it laterally.
In any case, he has a story to tell Jonathan.
He does. Well, I suppose maybe that's why he's been late, if he's been hearing this story.
But again, that story's still going to be there. Your hero. Your hero is there. You go and see your hero.
I suppose.
Apparently, Jackie, this is his story,
Okay.
has risen from her deathbed and has been seen happy and well in the village, walking around.
As always, Jonathan seems vaguely disinterested.
But fortunately for Jeff, Daphne at this point invites him to go back into the tent, no doubt for another 4 hours of discussion about the minutiae of his cases.
Yes. They say they're going to investigate this new case and they're off to Linnet's Hill.
Yeah, he sees this as possibly a less painful...
The lesser of two evils.
Lesser of two evils, yeah.
Maddie and Jonathan point out that they've come by train so they can't get to Linnet's Hill, but Jeff kindly offers a lift.
He does, and we next see them on his bike and sidecar.
Very Wallace and Gromit, wasn't it?
Yes. And we're at Jeff's house, Jeff and Christine's house. And he proudly shows off Jonathan to his wife, who assumes that he is another sad superfan.
Yes, and rants about the entire pathetic approach of dressing up like somebody you've never met. Jonathan sympathises with that view.
Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt, I don't think he is a fan of these fans.
No.
And Jeff has to pull out his book to prove to Christine that it's the real thing.
Yeah, the photo in the back cover is the giveaway.
And after he does this, he briefs Jonathan on this new mystery.
Now, I don't know if you've caught any of this Jackie Jordan stuff in the press this week.
The night I was spanked by an Arsenal striker. Bits and pieces. What was she? Some sort of model back in the 70s?
And professional bed hopper. Screwed up God knows how many marriages before she settled down here as the country wife.
Yet nobody deserved that. I was there when that thing exploded. It was like her whole face was just on fire. Then this morning I was round at Vince's collecting for some flowers.
Vincent Reese in Crooked Lane. He's got this elderly friend staying with him who's like, what would you say, Britain's answer to Mother Teresa.
Oh, got to be in her 70s at least, but still sharp as a needle. I mean, that's why it seems all so spooky. She's absolutely the last person in the world who'd ever make a thing like this up. Well, she says at 7:30 last night, when Jackie was in hospital in intensive care, she had a conversation with her in the front garden.
She's got to be in her 70s.
Oof. Imagine being in your 70s.
So we head over to Vincent's house on Crooked Lane. Is Crooked Lane the name of the lane, or is that the house?
I assumed it was the lane because there's a lane down the back. It could be the name of the house.
Yeah, maybe both.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Did you like the story of the witch doctor?
Yes. Remind us.
Kathleen, in her innocence, good Christian girl out there in Bali, met a witch doctor who said that you could make a volcano erupt by rubbing a snake. But when she went into his tent, all was not as it seemed.
That's fine. At this point, Vincent enters and tells them that yesterday was the first day she has been outside since she arrived. Catherine, that is.
Kathleen. Yes.
Is it Kathleen?
Yes, Kathleen.
Okay.
Catherine's the postman.
No, Christine's the postman.
Christine's the postman. Kathleen's
Postperson.
There's no Catherine.
Okay.
And the Jonathan? Which one's he?
Jeff?
Kathleen explains that she's been enjoying catching up on some reading, doing some notes and so on. And at 6 p.m. the previous evening, Vince had taken her outside for tea and scones.
Yeah, you had to wake her up.
Yes, in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
In the evening, sorry, when he got back from his, presumably, work.
They're both out there having this little snack, and he gets stung by a bee, so he has to nip in to get some medicine.
Yeah, at this point, Jackie hops over a stile and...
She's drunk again, or tipsy.
Is she? You
Yeah.
keep saying this. I
She
think it's
is.
just her personality.
Nope. In the pub, she was a bit woozy, and as soon as she went back home to complain, she was pouring herself a drink straight away.
Maybe. Anyway, she introduces herself to Kathleen, and Kathleen tries to guess why people are mad at Jackie.
Yes, she quite accurately suggests that she has used her looks in the past to get ahead, but with little concern for those that she hurt, but is now starting to feel their pain. That's a little bit too much to be reading into the situation.
Definitely. It sounds a bit bitter, to be honest.
She's been reading all these papers.
Yeah. Jackie's considering heading up to the church, and Kathleen encourages that.
Yeah, she's, again, a bit lightheaded. I'm not sure if it's drink mixed with some sort of medication.
She talks about it being too late for something.
Yeah, I think for forgiveness. I mean, again, I think this does sort of date the show to an extent. This is meant to be some sort of scandalous act or activities she's been involved in. She's had a few affairs and been a topless page 3 model.
I don't think, she doesn't need to atone for her life or anything like that. She's not killed anybody or committed any crimes.
No, it's all very tame.
Yeah. But then they have to keep hold of the audience that haven't turned over since Songs of Praise finished.
But she says she's looking for some sort of guidance, and I think the old dear, she says, it's never too late, God's always going to be there for you and listen, etc.
He was there when that crocodile was hungry.
So Jackie leaves, and Kathleen looks up and notices that the clock in the church reads 7:40.
Yeah.
So they've been out for an hour and 40 minutes.
It's quite a long time. Well, I think she woke up at 6, so it might have taken her half an hour to get organised, and then they've been out for an hour.
Yeah, still a long time.
It's quite a long time to be sitting out in your garden.
Eating scones.
Yeah.
At this point, Jeff points out the inconsistency here, as Jackie has been in a coma since lunchtime the previous day.
And Rupert has told them that there's been no change in the condition, or he's told somebody anyway, because the news has come through.
Yeah. And Vince appears.
Yeah, he wonders... He gets off on this bizarre rant, to be honest. He wonders what Jackie saw in Rupert and likens it to his PhD wife running off with a man who makes balloon animals.
Yeah,
Not bitter though, right?
He's very... This, again, is a weaker part of the episode, I thought. A weaker element. It was forced in. This little monologue.
It doesn't make sense. Doing what we know he's done at this stage, you would never mention that.
No, you wouldn't.
It's a stupid thing to mention, especially with two folk that you know are investigators of crime.
But leaving that aside with our retrospective knowledge, from a writing point of view, as soon as you hear it, you think,
it's like, we need to get this point out in this scene, and here's how we're going to do it.
Anyway, Kathleen confirms that Jackie had the same clothes on. How would she know? That's the thing. So she says she had the same clothes on that she had on the previous day, but noticed that the bottom of her trousers were damp.
I presume someone's described what she was wearing at the time of the explosion.
Really?
Christine, maybe?
Jeans and a top.
Yeah.
Before she reasserts the fact that she definitely did see her. It's not a dream.
Yep, she wonders if perhaps this whole thing is her faith being tested, and we can say, no,
it's not.
That's not what it is.
No.
Over to the hospital for a brief shot of Rupert looking sad.
Yes, Jackie's still there.
Well, someone's still there.
Mummified.
Yeah.
And we go back to Jeff's house. He tries to impress Jonathan with some of his theories.
A lateral hypothesis.
Yeah, nonsense. As Christine serves tea with a little smile for Jonathan. This is interesting. A little shine there.
Jeff's theory is that maybe somebody else isn't under the bandages. It's not Jackie at all.
Yeah, and he's even created a model a la Jonathan and Doc Brown to support this theory, but it's nowhere near as detailed as what Jonathan...
I mean, Jonathan looks at this as if it's a wee bit sad, but he did do this exact thing a couple of times himself.
Yes. Jonathan shoots down this theory.
There's no purpose behind it. No, why would anyone do this?
And even Maddie chips in by asking if she normally got stunt doubles to cut the grass.
At this point, Christine notes it's quite late and offers to let them stay. She has a double bed, so there'll be no problems with the sleeping arrangements.
And we cut to later that night to discover that Maddie and Christine are in bed together, whilst Jonathan is lying awake beside a cuddly Jeff.
Yeah, well, Jeff kind of hugs Jonathan and Jonathan tosses him off.
He then appears to have a eureka moment as he glances at the clock. It's 2:30 a.m. before looking out through a gap in the curtains.
What could that be?
It's very early for a eureka moment.
Early in the episode, yes. Yeah.
I mean, he's only found out that afternoon, that evening, about what has been going on.
Jonathan magic.
It's now the morning, and Maddie looks at the Last Supper photograph of
all the creeks.
of all the creeks, yeah. She listens to Christine complain about Jeff's obsession, but does admit that the real thing is, well, you know.
Yeah.
And we have a nice little insight here. Christine doesn't want to step on Maddie's toes.
Yeah, but she worries that she's got the sleeping arrangements wrong. So obviously what we saw was what Christine thought was appropriate.
Yeah.
And she worries that they were actually a couple, but she'd assumed they weren't.
Maddie describes the relationship more like Batman and Robin. So thoroughly sexual, obviously.
Yeah, wearing lots of spandex. Running around slapping each other on the thighs.
Jonathan comes down.
He does. He's wanting to know what the plan for the day is.
I think they mentioned that they're going to see Rupert, and at this, a smirking Christine tells him to ask Rupert to show him his magazines.
To my memory, this next scene is one of the iconic Jonathan Creek scenes from my youth.
Okay.
I can remember this. I mean, out with the context of the episode, I couldn't remember how the episode ended, but I could remember this.
Tell me about it.
He has binders of porn.
Well, where are we? Set the scene.
In his library, which is wall to wall with shelves, floor to ceiling, literally every inch covered with binders of porn.
Binders of porn. You can store all that in your phone these days, in your pocket.
Exactly.
If that was what you were into.
If that, yeah, I've never tried that, so I don't know. He has every major British title from 1970 on, all mint.
Yeah, 30,000 Scud mags.
Yeah. Do you think he's got, like, copies that he uses somewhere else?
Well, I think he buys 2 of each.
Yeah. Did you like his extremely rare one-off edition?
What was that?
The American Glamour magazine, Hot Jugs and Hooters from the American Bible Belt, which was cancelled after one issue. I think the actor playing Rupert, does a great job of playing that straight.
Yes.
He's very convincing.
Yeah, we'll chat about him later. Yeah, he's a well-known face.
Yeah.
And then Maddie, I think, rhymes off some of the magazines that she's reading through.
Yes, thinking back to her youth.
We find out that in a magazine was where he first laid eyes on Jackie.
Yeah, despite having 30,000, he knows exactly where the one with her in it is.
I'm sure.
He goes straight there.
Yeah.
Over in the hospital,
It's not good news, yeah.
Jackie's dead.
Short scene, that's basically what it is. Yeah.
Jackie's dead.
Short scene, that's basically what it is. We see the nurse close the curtains and turn off machines, etc.
I mean, we didn't actually need that scene. We could have done that with the phone call, but I suppose it's to give the impression of time passing.
Yeah.
We go back to Rupert's home and he says he's obviously not had any news of Jackie's death. He says he knows that she married him for the money, but that she is the most precious and irreplaceable part of his life, which seems quite sad when we know she's just died.
Yeah. The phone goes at this point.
Yes.
That's not going to be
No, that's not going to be a positive one, is it?
No. Outside,
In the shed.
Jonathan is inspecting it, and he's looking at the burned remains, but his findings are not what Jeff wanted to hear.
I'm afraid this notion of yours about pulling a switch doesn't cut it on any level. Even if she wanted us to think she'd been injured, dupe someone into taking her place, how could she guarantee that person would then be burnt beyond recognition? It's too messy.
Well, any way you slice it, it couldn't have been the same woman both times. That'd be some trick. And you wouldn't say she was the cleverest person in the world.
No. But maybe she didn't need to be.
Say again?
If I was to just suddenly disappear, now, right here in this garden, would you call that a clever trick?
Come on.
Okay. Close your eyes and count to 3. Very quickly.
1, 2, 3. Oh, hey.
Would you have been fooled with that trick?
No, I have ears.
Dreadful, wasn't it?
That's ridiculous.
Ears and eyes. Unless you were wearing blinkers and you were partially blind.
Well, there's all that hair on his ear.
That's true. But still.
And it's quite stupid.
Very stupid. He's a dopey git, isn't he?
Absolutely. My note says, Jonathan shows Jeff he can disappear. Jeff is an idiot. Do not be like Jeff.
Back into the library. Maddie is flicking through Splosh when a distraught Rupert walks back in.
So an inappropriate query. She's asking if he's got any magazines showing women in quicksand.
After his wife, it's just been...
I think this is a reference, but I wouldn't mention it at the start of the show. An ex or former partner had asked her if she was into that, or tried to get her into that sort of thing.
Yeah. Again, fairly harmless, isn't it? Really, fairly tame.
Yeah. Fully clothed in the ready brick.
Yeah.
Rupert looks quite sad when he comes through.
And Maddie immediately understands what this means. He cries as he suggests that she had latterly some remorse for what she did and hoped that she made her peace with God before she had died. How does he end this chapter of his life? He closes over her cover of Topsy.
Yeah, he shuts the binder. He files it away.
Back to Crooked Lane, where Maddie follows Jonathan on his way to the stile that Jackie climbed over.
Yeah, he's trying to get away from Jeff, and he wants to have a look at the stile as well.
They discuss the logic of the problem, and Maddie comes to the conclusion that Kathleen must be lying.
Well, yeah, and Jonathan says she can't be lying, but that her honesty is too convenient.
Yeah, very convenient.
I suppose, yeah, if you wanted an alibi, she's who you would want to get it from.
Jonathan, I think, has an idea of what has been going on, but he says he has to have evidence to back this up, and is then annoyed to find a very cheery Jeff waiting for them at this stile.
Yeah, he's cut across the field, but his trousers are not damp. Interesting, eh? Jonathan's marbles begin to roll.
Jonathan then admits that the whole thing was very intricately plotted and so well executed it almost came off.
Yes, but he solved it.
And he says that the clue to it all may lie in Kathleen's garden.
Jeff agrees to stand lookout for them while Maddie and Jonathan investigate.
Yeah.
He doesn't stay lookout very long, though.
He doesn't.
He just shows up. He couldn't bear to miss anything.
He's an arse.
Yeah, he really is. Well, they were only putting him on lookout to get him out of the way, though.
Yeah. In Vincent's garden, Jonathan is looking around the dense part of it where there's some trees and shrubbery, etc.
Yeah. Just as soon as he thinks he's found something, that's when Jeff shows up. And then, moments later, Christine as well.
Yes, what did he find?
Well, Maddie thinks it's a cycle track. It's certainly a thin line in the grass.
And at this, Jonathan claims something is utterly ingenious. But as you rightly said, Jeff and Christine have both turned up.
So did you think that the cycle track meant Christine did it?
I think that's what you're meant to think, 'cause she turns up with her bike.
Yeah, looking quite shifty.
Yeah. And she wants to know what Jeff is snooping at in someone else's property.
Yeah, I don't think she sees Jonathan and Maddie at first. And yes, like you say, the implication here is she's involved and she's not wanting him snooping around there where the evidence is.
But she's disappointed to hear that Jonathan is now leaving. And she asks, where for? To which he replies, Scotland Yard.
Yeah, someone's been murdered, but he's not sure who. We'll come back to that point because I've got an issue with that.
Okay. Scotland Yard, that's where we are now.
It's DCI Horner.
Uh-huh. They speak with him and explain that they know of a murderer, but not the victim. But they do know the time of the murder, between 7 and 8 p.m. on Wednesday.
The police conveniently find a murder for that time. And
They produce a picture of him,
yes,
the victim.
Yep, and there was something wrapped around his head when he died.
Yes. His name is Anthony James Feldman.
Maddie's given this box with the thing from round his head in it, and she says it seems empty.
Yeah. She then opens it up just like in Pulp Fiction.
Right.
And we don't see what's in it, but she's clearly surprised.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. Jonathan's saying he knows that this murder was committed between these certain times. How does he know it was a murder? It could have been any crime.
Yeah, good point.
It could have been someone who wanted to go and see Michael McIntyre and not have anyone find out about it. Or
Hideous.
yeah, it could have been any crime. He could have been going to rob somebody or whatever, steal something. But yeah, so why does Jonathan think it's a murder? Is he just going on, oh, you wouldn't go to all this effort for a regular type of crime?
Maybe he knows that he's always involved in... No, he's not always involved in murders, that's the thing.
Yeah, he's not. He solves things like people who are late for stuff.
Yeah. Norman, who just... his only crime.
Loving too much. Maybe that's it. He's an alibi for when he was away. Loving too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a conclusion jumper?
Yes, he goes from A to Z far too quickly. Anyway, back at Vince's home, Rupert shows up with a bottle of wine, continuing to look sad.
Yeah, and he's hugged by Vincent. Jeff's house. He's excited when he sees 2 cop cars speed past. I think he notices that Jonathan is in the back and he gets his shoes on. Christine, when he mentions the cops, I don't think Christine's bothered, but I think the mention of Jonathan, she perks up a
Piques
little
her
bit.
interest a wee bit, doesn't it?
So back over to Vincent's house. Horner, Jonathan, Maddie and some other cops, I think 2 cop cars, turn up and we see that Jeff and Christine are outside spying on them with binoculars.
Get a little point of view shot there through the binoculars.
We do indeed.
And the police stop them and bring them inside.
Why? That's my question. If a cop sees 2 people outside as they're interviewing a potential...
Yeah, get rid of them.
Yeah, you don't say, oh, well...
Well, from a viewer's point of view, it's because you're still suspecting Christine.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm talking
But
about
from the procedure point of view, it makes no sense.
No.
Unless Jonathan said, we need to bring these guys in, they'll be waiting outside.
But no, he wouldn't have known because the only reason that they
He
were
might have
there...
assumed that Jeff would come.
No, but Jeff only seen them, spotted them
Just
flying
happened to
by
see
the
them.
car. You couldn't have predicted that.
Maybe it's if you see them, bring them in. Anyway, in the living room, Christine starts to look a bit maybe shifty is the word.
Mm-hmm. And a meta, Maddie, invites him in for the wrap-up that Jonathan begins to perform.
What we'll be looking at here. A woman's rushed to hospital with terrible burns, goes into a coma from which she never recovers. And yet, miraculously, even as she's lying on a life support, she manages to materialise outside this house, on her way to church to atone for her past sins. An out-of-body experience? Or a fantastically conceived sham, engineered by someone for reasons which had nothing whatsoever to do with Jackie Jordan? It's not that you were short on technique, Jeff. Problem is, you were looking for the secret of this trick in the wrong garden. When you told us you'd seen her that evening, of course we believed every word. If we couldn't rely on Kathleen Gilmore to tell the truth, then who could we rely on? But then maybe that was the point. And then last night, suddenly, it just came in, almost literally through the curtains. A glimmer of what this whole business was about. The wet trousers, that long groove in the soil, the contents of that apparently empty box, all funneled it down in the end to one fairly chilling proposition. Suppose you weren't, in fact, brought to this house out of the goodness of someone's heart to recuperate in the country, but were quite cold-bloodedly set up to provide an alibi for someone about to commit a murder.
Okay, only Jonathan, Maddie and Horner are going to know what he means when he says the apparently empty box. Nobody else was there.
After all that, someone picks up and says,
What
"Excuse me,
box?
can we go back to that box? Why was it empty? Why is that a problem here?"
Yeah.
No, good point, Ian. Well spotted. Now, at this point, Vincent sighs, "Oh shit." And Maddie claims that he rubbed out the man who stole his wife.
Yeah.
She's sort of sympathetic, but says, "Yeah, really, it's not on."
You know, I mean, we don't know any reason why his wife left him. It could be entirely unrelated to this other man.
He might have been a wife beater.
I mean, he's a murderer, so it wouldn't be a big shock, would it?
No, you're right.
He's completely hijacked this other woman's life to suit his purposes.
Yeah,
He's an abuser,
a devil.
not a nice man.
Yeah.
But he was nice to Rupert.
Through a flashback, we see Vincent killing Feldman and leaving this balloon animal on his head.
What was that? A chilling warning to other balloon animal artists?
I don't know what that means. It's,
The guy's dead. He's not going to know there's a balloon. Is it a warning to the wife?
but it's his job. It's not like, you see, if Vincent, that was his hobby,
Yeah.
you know, he's leaving his calling card there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's like if the guy was an electrician and he said, I'm going to put a screwdriver on your head or your chest after I've killed you. It's like, so what? Yeah,
So one wire in each ear.
but it doesn't mean anything. It's not like...
Yeah, there's no
that's
purpose to this.
Yeah, that is his job. It's not like when he used to have an affair with his wife, they got up to fetishes with balloons and there you go, that's
Yeah.
what caused you to... You know, it's nothing.
All I can imagine is it's a message to his wife. Here's your man and your balloon animals. How do you like them now?
Yeah, but
But
it would
it's
need to
really
be.
lame.
But the message would need to be something that you could. The wife would go, I know, I can't prove it, but that's Vincent.
Yeah, that doesn't do that.
No, I'm saying if Vincent, who was in at the balloon animals, he could leave
Yeah.
a balloon and you go, that's. But no, it's just that's his job.
He's just not a very smart man.
No, he's an idiot.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything. Anyway, we go on to discover the elaborate alibi that Vincent set up when Jonathan tells Kathleen that when she spoke to Jackie, it was in fact 6 a.m, not 6 p.m.
This seems unnecessary when he fixed her within one day by giving her a sleeping pill.
Yeah.
So why didn't you just do that the day before? Give her a sleeping pill in the morning, wake her up at night time.
Mm.
You don't have to do it one day, you don't have to do it for a week or 2 weeks. 1 hour a day.
Yeah, it would save yourself having that big rig outside.
And even then, why not do it 2 hours a day for half the amount of time?
Because here's the thing as well. He would have to have rented that rig and that lighting equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not a photographer. He wouldn't own that. It's not,
Yeah.
you know, that's the type of thing a company has.
Yeah. Also, he would have to have been awake for 24 hours a day throughout this entire period to make sure that lighting was adjusted, but then also appear normal to everybody else outside of their house.
He really has overcomplicated this whole alibi thing.
He definitely has.
There must be easier ways around that.
Yeah.
You know?
And then they get him anyway. He's like,
just pay someone. Or...
did I not get any points for effort?
This did remind me a little bit of Feed In to Murder.
The Columbo episode, yeah.
With Shatner.
Yeah.
With their just time. Anyway, so he'd been manipulating her for the previous few days by rigging up lighting. So she's in this bed, so it was only that one window. What if you went to the toilet?
Yeah.
Did they have maybe more? I don't know.
Who knows? I mean, this is only a reconstruction in Jonathan's mind. It's not an actual recording of what was set up, I suppose. Rupert was quite pleased to learn that Jackie certainly had gone to the church the morning of her death.
Small comfort.
Like, she may be dead, but yes, she found Jesus.
Yeah, but I mean, really, she'd nothing to do with it. Her death
it's
was
completely
not
irrelevant.
Yeah. Kathleen doesn't want to believe what's been going on, but Vincent goes into some more detail.
I'd shift your day forward 1 hour. So by Wednesday, we'd be exactly 12 hours ahead. Okay, your body's telling you that something isn't quite right with your... What's that thing?
Circadian rhythms.
Like a bad case of jet lag. But that was the least of it, after all that you've been through.
So first thing Wednesday morning, she's been awake all night. To her, it's now tea time. So you settle her down outside. If that wasp hadn't sent you indoors, the conversation with Jackie would have probably never happened. And then it's her next bedtime.
What did you do? Slip her a few sedatives so she slept right through? Well, now it's Thursday, you're back on real time again. Feeling a bit grotty, but with no idea why. By this time, of course, the gear's all been de-rigged outside. Leaving no clue behind as to what's happened. Except for a few ruts in the ground where your power cable's been lying.
So she'd already been there. To church that morning.
Before you were even up, probably.
Oh, Rupert, mate. I'm sorry you had to get tangled up in all... That wasn't the idea. You can see that.
The other thing is, an elderly lady, heart attack, and lost a leg to a crocodile. I would have thought that there'd be some home care teams coming around fairly, if not daily, to keep an eye on her, make sure she's okay. Some guy who once made a documentary about you
It's
says,
a little bit...
come and stay with me and I'll
tenuous,
look after...
isn't
No,
it?
I'd rather have a professional healthcare expert to look after me. This is severe stuff. This is heart problems and a missing limb.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm feeling a little bit, run down.
Also, how grotesque is it that her having had those problems is... Here's an opportunity.
Yeah, it's a long shot as well.
Yeah.
Oh, she'll definitely be up for that if I invite her down to
Nothing
look after
can
her.
go wrong with this plan.
Yeah, come down and stay with me. I know you don't really know me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the implication is that they are friends, but
must have some sort of relationship.
the police decide at this point to take Vincent away. And leave her with one leg on her own in a house that she doesn't own, doesn't know anything about, hasn't any support or help with. She's sitting in the bed going, hang on, where's everybody gone? Come back.
Outside in the lane, Jeff is expressing his disbelief at not being able to work out the solution. I mean, how did I not get that?
Because you're an idiot, Jeff. You couldn't find a man behind you.
Yeah, but not just that. It's not like, oh, that was obvious.
Yeah, that was quite
Really
hard.
convoluted. But he does realise that the dew on the grass caused Jackie's wet trousers. That was a big
Yeah,
clue.
he figures it all out after. Same with the guy hiding behind him. He's not the quickest.
No.
Anyway, he offers to let Jonathan and Maddie stay.
But he's disappointed to find out that they'll be using the local hotel that night.
Meanwhile, Christine tells Maddie she's dumping Jeff.
Yes, she now sees him as a bit of a slow drip in comparison to the real thing, and says that he will be getting his marching orders. That's a bit harsh.
Well, he just seemed a bit of a gimp.
Yeah. But his personality's not changed. She must have seen that. She must have recognised that before now.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't actually make sense because before she met the real Jonathan...
She was happy enough.
No, she wasn't. She's thinking,
She didn't like it, yeah.
yeah, this is terrible. This guy's a sad sack. Why are you basing your life on him? But now she actually does realise that she's attracted to him. So it's now actually more reasonable that this guy would want to be like him.
Yeah. I suppose it's just he's a pale imitation and she'll always be thinking of Jonathan.
Yeah, that's true. She said she would swim through treacle for him. And
Yeah, Maddie offers some advice.
what's that?
She's going to tell Christine what turns Jonathan on.
In the hotel the next morning, they're in bed.
Yeah, they've been doing the sex, but they won't be doing that again.
No, they're not overly delighted looking, are they? Yeah, she compares it to making love to your favourite uncle.
Yeah, and you shouldn't do that without your auntie's permission.
Okay.
Well, some parts of Scotland.
They both accept that they were tired, however, and I think the
Yeah, they're building up.
opinion changes.
And they're starting to feel like maybe there's another opportunity right now.
Yep,
But the phone rings.
it does, and Jonathan answers it to Christine, who needs to see him urgently.
Why he doesn't say, no you don't, leave me alone.
Hey, I'm not a doctor.
Yeah. I mean, what could you possibly need that is more important than what he was about to do?
Well, we find out. In her house, he is beckoned by Christine upstairs.
Yeah. He passes a number of empty boxes of Scott's porridge oats, some
Yeah.
more product placement there.
And discovers her sitting in a breakfast bath.
It's disgusting. Also, she's wearing her uniform.
Yeah, that's the more disgusting thing.
Would Royal Mail put up with that
They wouldn't.
back in the day when it was a part of the government?
But before they can get down to anything, before they can grind their oats,
Yeah, okay.
Jeff arrives home.
Yeah, he's meant to be at Tesco, and he's come back early, and Christine's horrified. At this point, Jeff calls Jonathan a sick bastard and starts putting... Why is Jonathan sick? Is he suggesting that he's asked her to do this?
Yeah, I think so.
And that's what annoys him?
Yeah. And he gives him a bit of a doing.
Yeah.
This impresses Christine. He's not quite as limp and wet as she had thought. So he's put the spark back into that marriage anyway.
Well, maybe.
Outside, a furious and bruised Jonathan is very quickly walking.
Yeah, his bruises looked like maybe they had the work experience makeup person in that day.
Well, they certainly look like they had been around for a while. It's not a fresh bruise.
Yeah, and his eyes looked like they had eyeliner on and shadow rather than black eyes. Anyway.
He's in some state.
Something's happened to his face anyway. Maddie's still trying to kind of give him a nod and a wink, but he is mad.
Yeah, she offers him round 2 that evening, but he's having none of it and storms off.
Yeah, obviously quite rightly blaming her for the incident with Jeff and Christine.
Yeah.
Which was her fault.
Uh-huh.
But then he also left in the middle of what could have been something much more interesting than a woman in a bath of porridge.
Bath of curly whirlies.
That would be interesting. Waste of good curly whirlies.
Depends what you do with them. And there we have it. I thought it was a fun episode.
That's a really good episode. It was much better than the previous 3. Well, Ghosts Forge was okay, but the first 3 weren't that good.
Yeah, I think it's got the balance right here. There's the black humour. There's the actual mystery itself.
Yeah.
Nice characters, interesting characters.
Definitely.
No Adam, however.
No, but then when you only give him 2 minutes in an episode, there's not any point in him being there.
Yeah.
I liked it. It's better when he's involved in the plot. So like when Kitty was there, rather than the episodes in this season when he shows up, says something stupid, and then disappears.
Yeah, but there's only so many plots that you could...
Yeah, that's true.
But we agree, a good one.
Definitely.
Excellent. Okay, before we wrap things up, let's run through some production information and we can chat about any trivia you might have for us, Ian.
Yeah.
28th of December 1999 was the original air date, and again it was a 50-minuter. Quite a few guest stars we have this week, so I'll be quick. Dinah Sheridan played Kathleen. She died in 2012, aged 92. This was her final on-screen appearance.
Okay.
She has also been in Don't Wait Up, Doctor Who, The Railway Children, Just Us, All Night Long and Genevieve. Her first husband was the actor Jimmy Hanley, and her son is Sir Jeremy Hanley. He is a former Tory cabinet minister and chairman of the Conservative Party. Her daughter is the actress Jenny Hanley, and her parents were photographers to the royal family. Vincent was played by Nicholas Ball, and he was born in 1946. He has been in Holby City, Casualty, EastEnders, Footballers' Wives, Thief Takers, The Bill, Cluedo, and Hazel, amongst other things. He was the first husband of Pamela Stevenson.
Interesting.
You recognised Christine.
Yeah, Emma Kennedy.
How do you know Emma Kennedy? What do you know her from?
Mostly from writing and comedy work, I would say.
Yeah, born in 1967, she has starred in Mount Pleasant, Strange Hill High, Casualty, The Smoking Room, Goodness Gracious Me, and This Morning with Richard, not Judy, that's with
Herring
Richard
and-
Herring, yeah.
yeah.
Recently, she has had a show, I think, based on her
The
family.
Kennedys.
Yeah. Rupert was played by Benjamin Whitrow. He died in September 2017.
Not that long ago.
No. He's been in Casualty, Pride and Prejudice, The Bill, The New Statesman, that's where I know him from. Chancer, Fizz, Dempsey and Makepeace, Quadrophenia, The Sweeney and Chicken Run.
Watched that at the weekend there.
Did you?
Not deliberately, my son had it on.
Okay. And he has a son with Celia Imrie.
Know who that is, yep.
Jackie was played by Hetty Baines, born in 1956. She has appeared in Doctors, The Bill, Minder, Red Dwarf, Running Scared, not the 1980s action comedy with Billy Crystal, but a kids' TV drama, which
Okay.
I watched. Actually, I watched it a few years ago. After watching this episode, I went down the IMDb wormhole, found this, and then found it on YouTube. And it was, I think it's like a 13-parter, one of these sort of 20-minute ones you get in ITV after school. Quite good. She played a gangster's mole. Burnside from The Bill, actually.
Right, yeah.
He was in it. She's also been in The Last Song and Nicholas Nickleby, an ex-ballet dancer. She was the third wife of Ken Russell,
Okay.
the director.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, Jeff was played by Tom Goodman Hill. Born in 1968. This was quite early in his career, but he's now a fairly big star, I would say. He's appeared in Humans, Mr. Selfridge, The Imitation Game, Ideal, Doctor Who, Never Better, Broken News, People Like Us, and I first saw him in The Office.
Yeah, that's what I think he's most famous for, yeah.
Well, he was at the time, but not now.
Okay.
And also Fear of Fanny.
Well, we all have that from time to time.
It's a fairly rare phobia.
Actually, the guy who played DCI Horner has been a very prolific voice actor.
Yes.
He's been in almost any cartoon you can think of.
Yeah.
Does all the voices in Rasta Mouse.
Does he?
Apparently.
That was actually on an hour ago in my house.
There you go.
Any trivia for us?
I've got a quote from Alan Davis because they asked him about fandom and people who are obsessed with the show.
Does this have anything to do with a mental hospital?
Yeah.
Okay, on
Have
you
you
go.
got this trivia as well?
Yeah, on you go.
Well, he's just saying that the strangest fan experience they'd had was someone who wrote to him from a psychiatric hospital who wrote to him in character as Jonathan Creek, asking for Jonathan to come and get him out the hospital. And it was on the back of the official notepad with the doctor's note.
Yeah.
There you go. That's he said that's the power of television. I'd say more it's the power of very strong medication.
Yeah, well, it's more acceptable and understandable if you have got a mental illness, but you hear about this all the time. People in soap, actors who play the baddie,
Yeah.
that's Mrs. Mangle and Neighbours, and people shout at them in the street and abuse them, spit on them, that type of thing. And you're thinking, really, you don't understand that this is an actor.
Yeah, it's all pretend. It's not real.
Yeah. Okay, before we finish episode review,
There we go.
motive.
Revenge.
Indeed. Clues, let me run through them, tell me what I miss. Okay, Kate struggling to get up in the morning. Jonathan opening the curtains on Maddie, and it was not the time of day we thought it was. The convenient and reliable witness, the wet trousers, the cable track, the trees and foliage hiding the side of the house, and the balloon animal and death of the victim.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of also got Jonathan referred to circadian rhythms right at the start of the episode as well.
Okay. The gotcha. Now, this, I think, again, is a weakness perhaps of the format. It's just Jonathan explaining it.
Yeah, you don't have a specific piece of evidence.
No. I think we need more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very Scooby-Doo.
In essence, the fact that Jackie spoke to Kathleen was the gotcha. That was only possible because of how it was done.
Yeah. It's not really a gotcha, is it?
No.
Not for him, for Vincent.
No.
Doesn't prove
he doesn't
anything.
know, yeah.
Okay, next time we've got the 3 gamblers, and I think we might have to say goodbye to someone.
Season 3 finale, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll come back for that soon. Right, we'll look forward to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Cheerio, folks.
Bye-bye.